Your son said he will marry me, and do you agree?
It was just after 7 p.m. when neighbors heard the scream. At first, no one could tell exactly where it came from, just a sharp, chilling cry that cut through the evening air. Then, someone recognized the voice. It was Casaria. She lived alone. Concerned, the neighbors went over to check on her. Her apartment door was unlocked. When they pushed it open, what they found on the other side would haunt them forever. Kesaria Abramidze lay in a pool of blood. Her neck had been slashed. She had been stabbed 28 times. The knife had been left at the scene, slick with her blood. She was still breathing when they found her. Barely. By the time the ambulance arrived, her pulse was gone. It was too late. Just hours before her murder, the 37-year-old model had posted a photo with her boyfriend on Instagram, then, curiously, deleted it. Many now wonder if that was the spark. The moment everything unraveled. Hi, I'm Victor, and this is Crimes Anatomy. Today's case takes us to the country of Georgia, and it didn't just shock the public, it ignited fury. Because it wasn't just the brutality of the crime that disturbed people, it was who the victim was, and when it happened. Kesaria Abramidze was a well-known Georgian model, influencer, actress, and TV hostess. But more than that, she was a symbol. She was the first openly transgender person to appear on national television in Georgia, a trailblazer, a public figure who pushed boundaries in a country still wrestling with deep-rooted discrimination. She was born a male, but from an early age, she knew she didn't feel right in her own body. She always felt like a woman.
The goal of my life was to become who I am today. I feel inside that I have arrived. As a child, I always saw myself as such. And not only did I see myself, I even drew it.
22 years ago, Casaria and her mother moved to the capital, Tbilisi, to escape the hostility she faced in their hometown. There, her mother turned to Zizi, a local salon owner known for her warmth and generosity, for help. She asked her to take Casaria under her wing, to give her a chance. Zizi did. She described Casaria as kind, trusting, and full of life. The salon had become more than a workplace. It became a sanctuary. In a society where even walking down the street could be dangerous, the salon staff would take turns escorting her home every night. Casaria's first brush with national fame came on a game show called Time of Truth. But it wasn't kindness or acceptance that greeted her. It was humiliation. The questions she was asked were cruel. Would your parents be happier if you were never born? If it weren't for your unconventionality, would you have remained a simple, provincial boy? Will you stand by your sister as a brother if needed? But Casaria didn't flinch. She answered with poise, dignity, even as they tried to strip her of it. She walked away with 4,000 Georgian lari and her head held high. And in 2014, she took another bold step. She publicly announced her gender reassignment. Over the years, Kesaria Abramidze became more than just a familiar face on Georgian television. She became unforgettable. Bold, unfiltered, and unapologetically herself, Casaria stood out in the media landscape that often spotlighted those who didn't conform. The public watched her with mixed emotions. Some judged, some laughed. Others quietly admired her strength. But whatever they felt, they couldn't look away. She knew it too. The media wasn't always kind. The audience could be harsh. But Casaria embraced the attention, taking what acceptance she could, wherever it came from. To some, she was just an eccentric outlier. To others, a warrior. For many, the real Casaria only became visible once she was gone. In 2018, she stepped onto the international stage, representing Georgia in the Miss Transstar International Beauty Pageant in Spain. Her resume grew. Talk shows, TV programs, commercials. She never faded. She didn't let the world forget her face, or her voice. The investigation into her death began at an apartment on Avtandili Street at the Digomi district of Tbilisi. Police quickly sealed off the building. The scene inside was chaotic. scattered forensic powder, discarded gloves, cigarette butts, and a silence heavy with horror. Forensic pathologist Ketavan Gedanashvili examined the body. The cause of death? Acute anemia from massive blood loss. Casaria had been stabbed 28 times. 4 of those wounds were fatal. The weapon, a hard, blunt-edged blade. Back at the station, investigators pulled nearby surveillance footage. The timeline came together quickly. At exactly 6:53 p.m., a man stepped out of the taxi outside Casaria's building. On his way in, he stopped briefly at a store. Becca spent a few minutes in the store and came out with a grocery bag. He walked towards Casaria's apartment, then entered her apartment at 6:56 p.m. Becca's seen pacing back and forth as he's waiting for the lift to go up to Casaria's place. He looks nervous, restless. The lift came and he went up. By 7:10 p.m., he was seen running down the stairs. 14 minutes, that's all it took. Soon, the man's face was recognized by neighbors, by friends, and by the internet. It was Bika Jayani, a 26-year-old security guard at a local bar, the same man from the Instagram photo Casaria had posted just hours earlier, the one she had deleted. If you're still with me, take a moment to like this video. It really helps people discover stories like Casaria's. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe. I've got another case coming up next week. Let's rewind to earlier that day, on September 18th, 2024. At around 1 p.m., Casaria was at her friend Sonia's salon, getting her hair and makeup done. She was upbeat, chatty, until her phone rang. Something shifted. Her expression darkened. The energy in the room changed. It was Bika Jayani. He was pressuring her to meet up. Their relationship had always been turbulent, on and off, loving one moment, violent the next. Casaria had dreams of marrying him, of going public with their love, but Bika refused. Just a week earlier, she had broken things off, but it seemed that Bika wasn't willing to let her go. According to those closest to her, their relationship wasn't just unstable, it was dangerous. They had lived together for a time, and neighbors often heard their fights through the walls. But no one ever called the police, not even Casaria. Despite the bruises, despite the fear, despite the escalating violence. In December, Bika showed up outside her door in the middle of the night, pounding and shouting, trying to force his way in. Neighbors had to intervene. Another time, he beat her so severely she suffered a concussion. She was hospitalized. Friends say he monitored her closely, checking her phone, criticizing her clothes, dictating what she could and couldn't wear. And if she disobeyed, he beat her, choked her, yanked her hair, and called her a mistake of nature. Bika had also been spotted earlier that year during violent crackdowns on protesters in Tbilisi, something that made Casaria pull back from the public eye. She seemed ashamed to be associated with him. Her once bold presence on social media shifted. She started posting about abuse, about red flags, about survival. One day she wrote, "Hello friends, I was in a toxic relationship for almost 2 years. Many have asked why I disappeared from TV screens. This was the reason. You may be surprised, but I was the victim of manipulation and violence. I left the country to escape the difficult situation I was in. I will definitely return and take appropriate action, and I will publicly advocate against violence on this issue." Then, another post. "I also want to thank my next-door neighbor, who saved me when he finally broke into my house. Otherwise, I might not be alive today. About a month ago, he even took me to Gudushauri with a concussion, which was recorded at the clinic. I'm writing this post as an example for other women. Do not waste years with a manipulative narcissist. No to femicide, which is so common in our country. Despite being an example to many women and standing with the strongest women, this still happened to me too." And then she deleted it. Maybe he pressured her. Maybe she still hoped he would change. Maybe she wanted to believe in the man she once loved. To get away from him, she fled to Turkey for a while. But in the end, she went back. By 5 p.m., Kesaria left the salon with her friends. Sonia remembered clearly. Kesaria said she wasn't going to meet Bika, but he didn't stop calling. He begged, pleaded. When that didn't work, he made a promise she had always wanted to hear. He said he was going to marry her. Sitting in the car, surrounded by her friends, Kesaria lit up. "Girls, I'm finally getting married," she said, beaming. Her eyes sparkled. She truly believed in it. At 6 p.m., her friends dropped her in Degomi. Before heading inside, Bika called again. This time, he agreed to make the relationship public. Minutes later, she posted a photo of them together on Instagram, a quiet but bold declaration. Friends were shocked. Bika had always insisted on secrecy. When they called her, she brushed it off with joy. "What nonsense! He asked me to. He wants to marry me. Now he's coming to ask for my hand. Get ready to be the bridesmaid and wear a red dress." She even messaged his mother. "Your son said he wants to marry me, and do you agree?" What she didn't know was that Bika wasn't bringing a proposal ring. He had something else entirely different in mind. The very weapon he would use to kill her, and he had just bought the knife. After stabbing her 28 times, Bika rushed to pack his things from Casaria's apartment. He took his clothes, stuffed them into a black bag, and ran out. He went to a relative's house nearby, took a shower, washed the blood off his shirt, and vanished. But not for long. Police tracked him to Kutaisi Airport, where he was arrested just hours later as he tried to flee the country. At the station, Bika confessed. He said he did it because Casaria had insulted his mother and his sister. Then he detailed everything. "I went into the pharmacy and brought blood pressure medication. I didn't have the courage to jump. I walked into Casaria's apartment coldly and started talking to her. When I looked at her, tears welled up in my eyes. I asked her why she was acting like this, and then I started to beat her." He confessed to buying the knife that afternoon at 3:50 p.m. at a store called Caravan. He paid 59 lari. When investigators asked how many times he stabbed her, Bika claimed he was in a state of shock and didn't remember. As for the earlier assault, the one that left Casaria hospitalized with a concussion, he shrugged it off. "It was something that happened spontaneously while we were wrestling. She hit me, but we wrestled at the time. She lost her balance and fell. I took her to the hospital. I picked her up. It wasn't my fault." But few believed that version. Then came a chilling confession. "She told me to go public with our relationship. I told her to break up instead. It's Georgia, after all. I can't do that." The next day, she started posting videos that would irritate any man. The trial. Bika Gianni now stood trial for the murder of Kesaria Abramidze. He confessed, yes, but only to premeditated murder. He denies any special brutality. He also denies that it was a hate crime, even though the violence says otherwise. If convicted, he faces 16 to 20 years or life behind bars. Just one day before Kesaria's murder, Georgia passed a sweeping anti-LGBTQ law. It banned gender transition, same-sex marriage, and even discussions around sexual orientation, very similar to Russia's infamous gay propaganda law. The timing is chilling. Did it play a role in her death? Was Bika afraid of being exposed, ashamed of their relationship? Or was he simply a man who couldn't stand losing control? We may never know the truth, but what we do know is Casaria loved him, and he killed her for it. Bika's mother later gave a brief interview. "It was a shock to me. I would like to first express my condolences to Casaria's mother and apologize. Sorry is the only word left." The funeral. Kesaria Abramidze was laid to rest in Tbilisi on September 22, 2024. She was also remembered in Antwerp, Belgium, a quiet memorial held by Georgian queer refugees who had fled similar threats. Many of them had looked to Casaria as a symbol of survival. But even in death, she faced rejection. The Georgian Orthodox Church refused to bury her, citing her gender identity. It was the president of Georgia, a woman, Salome Zorobachilvi, who attended her funeral. She publicly condemned the horrifying murder of Kesaria Abramidze. This was more than a tragedy. It was a cultural fault line, one that split the nation in half. Casaria's murder didn't just reveal one man's rage, it exposed a society in crisis. Another shocking fact that came out after her death was that she was financially supporting him at one point in the relationship. What a messed up way of repaying this kindness. I'll be back next week with another case. Until next time, folks, stay safe. Victor out.